Alright, so picture this. You've got $5,000 to build a dream rig. What do you put in it? Well, that's the question Sweetwater's asking. Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So Sweetwater is currently running a Win Your Wishlist promotion, and they paid me money to tell you about it. Basically, log in or create a Sweetwater account, build your dream rig up to $5,000. That includes a Focusrite interface, save it as a wish list, and that's it. So my job here is done. Thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring the channel, and I'll see you for the next video. No, I'm kidding, that's not it. I thought it'd be fun to actually build a couple of $5,000 rigs using gear I've got here, which is a crazy sentence that I never thought that I'd be able to say when I first started the channel, but somehow, here we are. So I live in a very small apartment, and there is way too much gear in here right now. But I swear there actually is a very good reason as to why it's all here. I'm working on a secret project that I can hopefully share with you soon, where I legitimately need and will use all of it. But in the meantime, rather than just looking like a hoarder, let's make use of it. Kind of do some science, see if we should go very expensive guitar with a less expensive amp, or maybe a less expensive guitar with a very expensive amp. Hopefully showcasing real world examples will help you when you're putting together your own virtual dream rig. And I'll be building my own wish list at the end of the video if anyone is curious about that. All right, so $5,000 rigs. Let's take a closer look. Now, all the rigs I'm building include a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface. It's one of the most popular interfaces in the world because it's simple, it's reliable, it does studio-grade audio, it's low latency, and for 170 bucks, it's really all you need to record guitar. It's USB powered, so just plug it into the computer. You don't need an external power source. 2 channels, so you can record 2 things at the same time. Very powerful, portable interface, and it doesn't take up much of the budget, so that is what I'm going with. Interface sorted, let's build some rigs. Alright, so we got a lot of gear to choose from when putting together these rigs. Well, obviously, since the goal at the end of this is we're putting together Sweetwater wish list, I'm sticking with gear and brands that are actually stocked at Sweetwater. So, for example, Jet City, that's a great amp for 500 bucks. Can't use it because it's not on Sweetwater. The Marshall DSL, great amp. Can't use it because it's not the current generation, it's last generation, right? So the rules are very simple. If you can't get it on Sweetwater right now, it doesn't get into a rig. But Sweetwater does stock a shitload of shit, so we've still got a ton of options. Okay, first rig. Now, what I'm thinking here is let's start with the amp. Traditional thinking has it where your amp is one of the most important parts of your signal chain. Essentially, it's got a huge impact on tone, right? So I'm thinking for this challenge, we've got $5,000. We can splurge a little bit. You know, you could go dual rectifier, that's like $2,300. You could go rock reverb, I think that's like $2,200. And then with a $170 interface, that's still plenty left over for a nice guitar. Angle Savage, it's a little more expensive at $3,000. Such a kick-ass head though. But I'm thinking the rev generator might be the best option for this first rig. One, it looks fucking cool when it lights up. Like, it looks so super modern. But also, it's got a built-in 2 notes load box. With the other amps, we'd have to get an external load box. Like, we'd have to factor in something like a 2 notes Torpedo Captor X. That way we could record it directly into the Focusrite because it's got a load box and you can load on custom IRs. This amp has all that already built in. In fact, because of that, this is one of the most convenient amps to record with, which is a crazy thing to say about a big ass 120 watt head. 4 channels as well, obviously it does the super modern high gain stuff, and then channel 2 is like a Marshall-esque crunch, and channel 1 is like this super clean pedal platform. It's $3,300, so that still gives us a decent amount to play with for a guitar and some nice pedals for that channel 1. Right now, we're at $3,470, so we've got about $1,500 to play with. You could go with the EC Arctic Metal, that's like $950. Only an EMG 81 though, even though it is splittable, that's still not the most versatile guitar. Keeping with the LTD theme though, we could go with the EC 1000T CTM. That's $1,200 and definitely a tempting option since both of those have the stainless steel frets this year. But that doesn't leave us much room to play with for pedals. So here's a crazy thought. I'm actually thinking the Epiphone Les Paul Prophecy. They just updated these last year with proprietary Fishman Fluence pickups. They've got 3 voices, so you got traditional PAF, you got an overwound humbucker, and you got a single coil voice. You got a Graphtec nut, Lock and Grover tuners, you got an ebony fingerboard, extra jumbo frets, and I love how they've color matched the abalone. And the color itself is sick. It's like an aged silver burst with like a satin flame top. It's a full thickness carved top single cut, and at 900 bucks, it saves us a little bit of money compared to the LTD EC1000T. If my math is right, 3300 plus 900 plus 170, our total rig right now is 4470. So that's 500 bucks to add a Digitech drop or a delay or a chorus or a reverb pedal. Right, like this is a very nice guitar and it gives you that little bit of extra wiggle room in the budget. So cool, let's plug it in, see what it sounds like. Next, rig. So the rev is fun, right? It's got 4 channels. It does the tight dual rec thing. It does the genty thing. But it is a very expensive amp and eats over 50% of that $5,000 budget. So I'm thinking for this next rig, we allocate a little less to the amp and allocate a little more to a nicer guitar. And what better one to go with than the classic 6505, right? Like it came out in the 90s, and even so, you go to any metal show, you're almost guaranteed someone's using a PV6505, or at least a profile of this or a 5150. It doesn't really do cleans, but on this channel we don't really give a fuck about that anyways. Now again, this thing was designed in the 90s, way before they were even thinking of doing things like built-in load boxes. So with something like this, we're gonna have to factor in a Torpedo Captor X. I actually don't have a Captor X. I've got a Torpedo Live, which they don't make anymore, but the concept is essentially the same. It basically allows us to run this directly into our interface without blowing it up. So that's the amp sorted 1300 plus 600 plus 170. Right now we're at 2070. That's plenty left over to pick up a nice guitar. Okay, and we've got like 3 grand to play with, so maybe we can go with a nice Schecter. There's a Banshee Mach 7 Evertune, hand-wound Lundgren pickups from Sweden, Evertune Bridge, or the KM7 Mark III Artist, Keith Mara Fluences, Hipshot, everything else. Both are neck through, but I'm thinking with this much budget left, we can go premium build quality. Oh, fuck yes. All right, I know we said we'd stick to things that are currently available on Sweetwater, but this is a 2010 ESP Standard Eclipse 2, and since then, ESP Standard has been rebranded to E2, so it's basically an E2 Eclipse. And I replaced the pickups from EMGs to Fishman Fluence, just added another dimension to this guitar. So in addition to the active sound, you've also got a high output passive sound. This is such a good playing, good sounding guitar. You can see I played the shit out of this. Look at that. The gold plating is gone. As good as LTDs are, E2 is just a step above. 2,000 for the guitar, another 260 for the pickups, 2,070 for the amp, the Captor X, and the interface. So that brings us to 4,330 with budget to spare for pedals and such. Fuck, man, you can build some ridiculous rigs for 5 grand. Next rig. But what if we save a little more in the amp? That way we can go even nicer for the guitar. And I've actually just borrowed this from Orange. It's their new Super Crush 100. Essentially, they've set out to create a solid state version of the rock reverb. And I don't know if the demo of this guitar is gonna be out by the time this video goes up, but holy shit. This plus a Tube Screamer is just fucking nasty. So let's go with that, plus a Tube Screamer, plus a Captor X. We're at 1,200 plus the interface, 1,370, and now we can pick a super nice guitar, and I've definitely got one in mind for this. An Ernie Ball Music Band Stingray RS. You know, the fluff guitar. I've watched too much YouTube. Been playing this one a lot recently. The neck is so good. It's asymmetrical, and then it's hand waxed and oiled. It's so fucking good. Stainless steel frets, the color's dope, and the guitar sounds great, which it should for $2,400. All right, so we've got our Stingray, our Super Crush, our TS9 Tube Screamer, our Captor X. That brings us to 3,770. Is that right, Pringle? That's right. I mean, we still got like $1,200 to play with. The secret to the Super Crush, though, is that the power section is actually Orange's Pedal Baby, which is a super clean power section they developed specifically for use with effects pedals. I'm not really a pedal person, but I think I'm just gonna leave that rig as it is. I think I might add the Digitech drop to it, just because we can. But other than that, we'll just say that if you are a pedal person, you've got enough left to build a ridiculous pedal board that'll go well with this. But yeah, for now, let's just plug it in and see what happens. Alright, so I feel like those are 3 quite reasonable rigs as far as $5,000 rigs go. But now, I'm thinking let's get a little stupid with it. Like, what are some extremes we can go to here? How about a $4,000 amp? Yeah, so the Hughes & Kettner Triamp Mark III is probably the most ridiculous amp ever. 6-channel amp does everything from Fender style cleans to a stupid amount of gain. Look how many fucking tubes there are in there. That's gonna be a nightmare to retube. It's incredibly high fidelity. It's probably the clearest amp you'll ever play through. It's handmade in Germany. They don't ship many of these out. This is my dream amp for so long. I never thought I'd actually own one. Like, it still blows my mind that I actually have one. But yeah, it's like a $4,000 amp. So there goes most of our budget right there. No built-in load, so we need the Captor X, that's $4,600. We need the interface, $4,770. So we've got $230 left for a guitar, which doesn't leave us with many options. But we do have options. This is a Squier Mini Jazzmaster, 22 3/4 inch scale length. Pickups are full-sized, but the body is not, so it looks fucking weird. But yeah, it fits in our budget. And we've got like 50 bucks to spare. This is a dumb rig, but technically legal. And I bet it sounds good. Next rig. Alright, so for the last one, we went full stupid by blowing the entire budget on an amp. So what if we do the opposite this time? Okay, so in stark contrast to the Squier Mini Jazzmaster, this is the guitar I bought for myself for hitting 100,000 subscribers. It's my PRS Mark Tremonti 10 top, and it is the most amount of money that I've ever spent on anything ever. But, oh man, PRS knows how to make a guitar. This plays like an absolute fucking dream. With the interface, we currently stand at $4,915. We've got just $85 left of a $5,000 budget after just a guitar and an interface. All right, so what's the plan here? Well, turns out a guitar and an interface are really all you need these days, because Neural DSP offers free trials of any of their plugins. So I've just downloaded a free trial of the Neural DSP Fortin Nameless plugin, and that's what I'll be using for the tone portion of the rig. And yeah, I know I said that we'd only be using gear that's available from Sweetwater, but as I said, it's free for 14 days at least. And also it showcases what you're able to do now with just a guitar and an interface, right? Like, you can use a real amp if you want to, but also with an interface, you can use plugins like this where a real amp is just optional. And I mean, let's be real, our options with just 85 bucks are kind of limited. So there you go. Those are 5 examples of differently built rigs, some with more expensive guitars, some with more expensive amps, all recorded, of course, using a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface. Now, as a metal rhythm person, I did go with amps that emphasized metal rhythm tone. If you wanted even more versatility, there are a couple things that we could have done differently. Like with Rig 2, rather than a Super Crush, replace that with the Boss Katana Mark II. Or Rig 3, sub out the PV6505 Plus with the Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister 40 Deluxe. Both the Boss and the H&K have built-in digital effects, MIDI control, and sound really good at their respective price points. I just went with the Orange and the PV because, personally, I think that I get a better tone out of those two. But something else I want to mention, and you probably already know this if you've done anything like this before, the recorded tones, especially with metal, it really only tells half the story. The guitar matters a lot too for the playing experience, because let me tell you, Rig 4, super expensive amp, cheap ass guitar, really not that enjoyable. The Hughes and Kettner was doing a lot of heavy lifting, and even then, I mean, I don't think this video is going to sell anyone on the Triamp. Bad pickups, short scale length, it was kind of muddy, the guitar didn't want to stay in tune. Using the PRS was a lot more enjoyable. That guitar basically plays itself, but plugins, even great ones, just don't quite have the same feel and response as a 100-watt tube head. And obviously it's more difficult to use that rig in a band setting. The orange solid state is an interesting one because by itself in the room, it's kind of flat compared to the other amps, but in the context of a mix, it's crazy how much it shines. But again, the Stingray is an incredible feeling guitar, so that rig was much more enjoyable than using the Hughes and Kettner 2, which pains me because the Triamp is my baby. So just like everything in life, balance is key, and going through these different gear combinations, I think I've got a better idea of where that sweet spot is for me. So hopefully that was helpful, or at least fun for you. I know that was a helpful experiment for me as well. So now let's put together a wish list. So actually I'm gonna make 2 wish lists. Like, let's say that I had no studio gear, but knowing what I know now from the experiment, what would I pick? And the second one is, well, what else do I wanna try? Like, I kind of really don't want any more gear right now. Low-key can't wait for the secret project to be over, but hypothetically. All right, so here on my wish list, I've already got the Scarlett added. So let's start with amp. And I mean, I'm so tempted to go for the 6505. You know, you get all these modern amps that come out, they've got all the features, they light up. The PV doesn't do any of that shit. It doesn't even have a clean channel, really. It's such a classic, but I have to go with the rev generator. The reason being, it sounds really good for the metal stuff, obviously, and for like the 2 times a month where I feel like doing something other than bone-crushing gain, it can do that too. And it's really the fact that it's got the load box built in, so this can go straight into the interface without needing something external. It's got the versatility, the functionality, the tonality. I love it. It's honestly one of the most useful pieces of studio gear I've ever bought. That is going into the list. So as it stands, we're at $3468.99. So we've got, what is that, $1530 left to play with. Now, I've said it before, I'm not really a pedal person, but there is one pedal that I can't live without, and that's the Digitech Drop. It makes your guitar lower. I don't think that I need to justify myself on this one. Add that to list. So we're now at $3708.98. So we've got just shy of $1,300 left for a guitar. And so I'm going with an LTD, the EC1000T CTM. I really like the Prophecy. There's a reason why I haven't sold it, but I love stainless steel frets. So this guitar is a full thickness Eclipse, just like a traditional Les Paul. The neck heel cutaway is a lot better. You get Fishman Fluences in the classic set, so you still got that multi-voice thing going on, and you get the extra jumbo stainless steel frets. Oh, I kind of like that cherry better though, so let's add that. We're at $4,907.98, well within budget. That's the rig that I would go with, and that's it. I'm entered. I am gonna delete this after, by the way, because, well, clearly it should not go to me. It should go to one of you. And then I put together a quick wish list of what else I would actually like to try right now. The Marshall Silver Jubilee. Man, one, it just looks so fucking cool. But also, I've never even tried a proper JCM 800. I hear the Jubilee is a lot like that, but a slightly modified version, like slightly more modern. And as I said, I just think it looks fucking cool. So I'd love to try one of those, and then obviously with that, we need an external load box, so that's where the Captor X comes in. And then, I mean, I love my drop pedal, and the Digitech Whammy just does that and more. Like, you can go down and up. This is basically like a prereq pedal for any modern metalcore these days. And then I had about $1,700 left for a guitar, so I put that into a Sweetwater Surge filter. There are a lot of cool guitars in this price range, a lot of super fucking ugly ones too, like this thing, or like this kind of cool but also disgusting thing. In the end, I went for an LTD Phoenix 1000. It's about $1,000. It's an LTD Firebird clone, but like a proper clone, so I mean, it's neck through and everything. Seymour Duncan pickups. It's got a Fat Cat in the neck, and LTD 1000 series stainless steel frets. So it's like a hot rodded Firebird, stainless steel frets. That vintage white looks awesome. So yeah, that's kind of like a more old school wish list. Old school-ish. I mean, there's a Digitech whammy pedal in there. And we still got plenty of budget left, but you know, it's just another idea for when you're putting your own wish list together. Alright, so that's always fun, putting together some dream rigs. Again, Sweetwater's actually giving you a chance to win a free $5,000 rig. So head on over to Sweetwater, build a wish list using a Focusrite interface, and you'll be automatically entered. You can also subscribe here. The good karma will bring you luck. That might help you win, but that's totally optional. Thanks to the awesome patrons like Christoph Schaefer for supporting the channel. Social media, merch, and Discord server links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I'll see you for the next video.